If you want to build bigger shoulders, this video is for you. Naturally, I'm a skinny guy growing up, one of the last kids to grow, and so naturally, I wanted to build muscle the natural way, right? I wanted to find a way, how can I build a body that makes me strong, lean, and confident, and also help support me in sports? And shoulders are incredibly important for that, not only because they're crucial for all the exercises that are going to help you build strength and mass through your upper body, but as the saying goes, shoulders also make the man. They also make the women as well. So what we need to understand about shoulders is when we can start to build broader, more impressive shoulders, they're actually going to help accentuate for men that V-tapered physique. The V-tapered physique of broad shoulders, expansive chest, and a narrow waist has been shown time and time again to be the most aesthetically pleasing male physique. Now, for women, it's also important because if we want to get that hourglass shaped figure, then building up shoulders is going to actually help to naturally make your waist accentuate and appear a little bit more narrow, and then have that be in balance, obviously, with your hip ratio. And so we're going to break down my top 3 exercises to build bigger, more impressive shoulders. But before we do so, we need to go over a couple basics. You see, the shoulder is really made up of 3 heads that we need to be able to develop. The first one is the anterior or the front delt. Now, whenever we're doing a pressing exercise, that anterior head, that front delt is going to be hit. So your presses, your dips, all of these exercises that you're doing on a regular basis, we're getting plenty of stimulation. In addition, we spend a lot of time directly internally rotating kyphotic, where that front delt gets even tighter. That's why you see so many people even have good muscular development, but their posture is internally rotated where they look smaller than they actually are. So in many cases, we don't need a ton of anterior delt work because we're getting it from all the pressing exercises we are already doing. Next, we have the lateral delt. Some people call it the medial head. I like to call it the lateral delt. So what this is what helps create that rounded cap look that you see on my shoulder right here. This runs right down the middle of the shoulder. This is a very often neglected exercise unless you have a steady dose of different lateral raise variations. Arnold presses hit it to another extent, but we really want to spend time building up that medial head because that's what's going to create that cannonball delt look and give you broader shoulders. Finally, we have the rear delt. The rear delt does get some work whenever we're doing a pulling type exercise, but it's often underdeveloped compared to the front or the lateral head of the shoulder. And so what we need to be able to do, we actually have to take an unbalanced approach to training shoulders if we want to build a balanced shoulder, because most people come in with a ton of asymmetries, overdeveloped anterior delts, and then poorly developed lateral delts and rear delts. Now, before we jump into the workout specifically and the 3 exercises, there are 2 mobility drills I do before any type of shoulder work. The first exercise is a band dislocation. A band is a much better tool than using something like a wooden dowel because the wooden dowel is going to be restrictive. It's going to, if you have any imbalance between left and right side, you're not going to be able to bend that wooden dowel. So when you have something like a band, it's going to allow some unique ranges of motion if you have any shoulder injury. We want to move that shoulder through a full range of motion, opening up the correct mobility so we can press overhead safely. We'll do 2 sets of 25 reps with a band dislocation. Next, we want to do a band pull apart. The band pull apart is going to work on the shoulder retraction capabilities here. So what we want to focus on, because we've already improved that range of motion, now we want to reinforce it with stability of the muscles that are going to be needed to optimally support pressing mechanics. So what do we do here? The band pull apart, I like to start about shoulder width, maybe slightly wider, and we simply pull the band apart by squeezing through our shoulder blades. Notice we're not going through your elbow. You should not get a tricep pump here. Instead, it should be a full retraction all the way back. So I'll do 25 reps. Sometimes I double overhand. Other times I come at an angle. Sometimes I do an underhand grip. Whatever the case, play around with different grips because the shoulders, because they're blessed with such a wide range of motion, we want to be able to build stability through all these different ranges so we can control the chaos when we actually need to use our shoulders outside of the gym. Top shoulder exercise number 1, single arm overhead press. We like to use a single arm overhead press because most people are going to have some history of a shoulder issue, and when we understand this, we can start to train around asymmetries And we can build more stability within each individual shoulder and hopefully erase some of those asymmetries so you can stay pain-free. In the case of the single arm overhead press, it's going to allow many people to actually have a better range of motion up top than using a barbell or even being in that seated position. In fact, a lot of people aren't doing a seated dumbbell overhead press. What they do is they end up arching their back and they turn their overhead press into an incline press anyway. So with a single arm press, we're allowed to get a better range of motion, train through any injuries or imbalances that we have. And because there's a single arm movement, there's also going to be some activation of different high threshold motor units that are typically not trained when we're doing a bilateral exercise. Taking one step further, because there's an offset load here, we're actually going to have a crazy contraction all the way through your abdominals so you can actually get some ab training in directly while you're training your shoulders. So when I'm doing an overhead press, specifically with a single arm, I will take my non-working hand and I will actually squeeze it and hold it down the side to create more tension. Here the elbow is dropped in front of the body. We're not flared out in external rotation. I like to tuck in just a little bit, press, and lock out overhead. Notice here, you can get a really good full range of motion as well. A lot of people end up shortening their range of motion when they're doing an overhead press because they're trying to chase weight. If you start shortening your range of motion, you're ending here, that's essentially just hitting your tricep. I'm going to have that dumbbell coming all the way down, really touch the top of the shoulder, and then pressing overhead. And again, I'm holding this hand, squeezing tight, because there's a big contraction all the way through the obliques. Because a single arm press is a compound lift, what I like to do is we like to focus on the mechanical tension component of building lean muscle, which means we're lifting heavy. So in this case, I'm going to do 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps to build my shoulders. Now the reason that we do 3 to 6 to 8, I like to do what we call a double progression model, meaning we want to pick an exercise or pick a weight where we're failing around 6, the bottom end of that rep range. We're going to stick with that same weight until we move up to doing 8 reps. So week 1, maybe you're doing 50 pounds. Week 1, 50 times 6. Week 2, 50 times 7. Week 3, 50 times 8. Cool. Now you progress the weight up to a point where you're failing around 6 again, and voila, you can progress on this exercise forever. Now, with just a depressing exercise, we focus on that mechanical tension component for building muscle, and that anterior head is going to get the primary kind of stimulus when it comes to doing that overhead press. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a behind the back cable raise. And so what this exercise looks like a lot of times from the front, it actually looks like it's going to be anterior delt focused, but the reality is it's actually a raise that happens in the scapular plane, meaning the scapular plane is about 30 degrees over from a straight lateral raise. This is actually going to be a better position when it comes to building the lateral head of that delt, right? And so when we're focusing on this particular exercise, we're going to set a cable pulley on the very bottom and just pick it up here. Simple. Keep our abs tight, then we raise. Someone out to the side, kind of out in front. The line of the pull of the cable really will stress the fibers of the lateral head to build that round cap delt. Now, lateral raises are a fine exercise to do. No problem with dumbbell lateral raises, but because of this tension of the cable, like there's tension on my shoulder right now, right? So we're able to have more tension consistently throughout the entire range of motion compared to a dumbbell where it's really unloaded at the bottom, right? So again, because of the constant tension directly from the cable and because of the line of pull included with the scapular plane that we were focusing on there, we're actually going to do this exercise is actually a bit better for overall shoulder health, and it's really going to train the fibers of that lateral head to build a more round capped delt. Now, we can load this exercise up a little bit. We're doing 8 to 10 reps, which is a combination of both mechanical tension and metabolic stress. So a lot of times I'll go 8 to 10 reps or even 10 to 12 reps when I'm doing the behind the back cable lateral raise. And now when I'm doing this, because we're focused on that constant tension, one of the most important components that most people neglect when it comes to their training is actually the training tempo. And so when I'm coming up, I like to pause at the top, 3 to 4 seconds down, and hold. Right? If you can't feel the muscle contract, you're gonna have one hell of a time building it. And if you're just racing through like this, that's not gonna be great either, right? Because even if you do 10 reps, but your reps only take 2 seconds, 20 seconds of tension, that's a lot less than 3 to 4 second eccentric, where you got 40 seconds of tension. Your body doesn't understand reps, it doesn't understand weight, it just understands time. So if you neglect the training tempo that you use, you're not really providing the stimulus that you're looking for when it comes to building muscle, particularly with your shoulders. Now the last exercise that we're going to focus here is the rear delt swing. I picked these up from Coach John Meadows, the late John Meadows. And rear delts are often neglected. You see, what happens a lot of times, people are they focus so much on retracting, on squeezing their shoulder blades back, doing something like a reverse fly, that when we overly exaggerate that squeezing of the shoulder blades, we end up taking the load directly off of your rear delts and we put it on your traps and on your rhomboids. Which is fine if you want to train your traps and rhomboids, but not if you want to be able to train your delts. And so the rear delt swing, bit of a different exercise, but it's going to provide a great shock to your body. You see, with the rear delt swing, what we're able to do here is, because it's actually a swing, there's a bit of a cheat in each one of these reps. And so we push the volume a lot higher. We're talking 30 plus reps in a particular set. And what we're going to focus on is actually pushing your hands away and keeping your arms straight. So we're getting to the point where we're not retracting and squeezing our shoulder blades together. We want to be able to do is keep constant tension directly on the rear delts. This is also an exercise you can go a little bit heavier with once you get going, but the time under tension can make it very, very difficult. Heck, I've had clients before using 40 to 50 pounds on this exercise for sets of 40 to the point where they need straps to really being able to emphasize it. And so if we're doing that swing, what we want to be able to focus on, yeah, if we have to swing the weight up a little bit, that's fine, but we really want to focus on controlling that eccentric. We know that we're stronger in that eccentric, in that negative tempo, and so we can create more mechanical tension directly inside the muscle, and of course, with the higher reps, more of that metabolic stress, aka the pump. All right, so here we are, arms are straight, and I'm thinking about pushing my arms away and not retracting my shoulder blades, keeping all the tension in the rear delt. Generally, a neutral hand position is going to be best here. You can play with slightly flaring the dumbbells, just leading with your pinkies to feel that rear delt fire up even more. So there you have it. Those are the 3 exercises. First, we have the single arm press. I like to do 3 sets of 6 to 8 with a 3-1-1-0 tempo and about 90 to 2 minutes rest. So 90 seconds and 2 minutes. The second exercise, behind the back cable lateral raise, it's really going to smash that lateral head of the delt, give you those round cannonball delts. There I'll go 4 sets of 10 to 12, 3-1-1-0 tempo, and about 90 seconds rest. The final exercise, the rear delt swing, chest supported directly on the bench. In this case, I like to do 4 sets of 25 to 30 reps. You can even work this all the way up to 40 plus reps per set. In this case, I want to go about 60 seconds rest. The goal here is not to use the heaviest weight possible. It's to get a great pump all the way through that rear delt. And again, that important cue is to make sure you're pushing those hands away to keep tension on the rear delts instead of squeezing your traps and putting more of the tension directly on your traps and on your rhomboids. And so the key concept here is most people are inherently unbalanced and their training's been unbalanced for a while. And so if you want to pull a body back into proportion, and if you want to be able to look great naked without living in the gym, what you need is a program that's built specifically to train around some of these imbalances. And on occasion, it means taking an unbalanced approach to build a body that's in proportion. And now, if you want to look great naked without living in the gym, the next step is simple. All you have to do is go to the link below and click on bachperformance.com/coaching. There I'll break down everything that we do inside of our coaching program to help you build muscle, lose body fat, build a lean athletic physique without it taking over your entire life. So check that out, fill out the short application on the bottom. You and I will hop on a phone call, go over what you want to accomplish specifically, and highlight your path to success. Finally, if you got value directly from this video, please do me a favor, drop me a thumbs up and leave a comment below so I can make more content like this that's beneficial for you. I'll see you on the next one.
Did you find this helpful? If so, pound that like button and hit subscribe. Now, if you want a free copy of our Chiseled Muscle Cheat Sheet, the no BS way to help you lose body fat and build lean muscle in 90 days, make sure that you go to the description below and download your free copy. Any questions? Drop them in the comments, and can't wait to see you with the next video.